can tell our friends, and they can have my things when we're dead. But we gonna live forever. But we gonna live forever.
Fellas. Pretty sick. My buddy who's in Mad Caddies said they're gonna make an intro song.
Yeah.
That is the girls from Motley Crue, but they're gonna make it with boys.
Nice.
Sasha,
Nice.
dude, he fucking rules.
That's sweet.
So he said that. So that's one thing that people can be looking forward to. A new intro song.
Boys.
A couple people have sent me a couple different things over the years, but they weren't good. Also, I addressed the rumors that I was on coke last episode.
Oh, there people were saying you were on
yeah,
coke.
that's a topic.
That you were on coke for the podcast episode.
Well, because I was jazzed up.
Yeah,
but
you
I'm
just-
often jazzed
Yeah.
up, and people will say that. They go, "Oh, this guy's on coke." I go, "I mean, you see me on coke." I go, "Pal, you'll know if I'm on fucking
yeah,
coke.
Yeah.
If I show up to this podcast and I'm coked out, you'll fucking know
Yeah,
it."
this is like your default is like me coked out. Like me coked out is your default.
My normal. Yeah, but if I'm me coked out, it's like I'm grinding the teeth.
Yeah, but you don't do that.
I do. I grind the teeth. I got a whole face thing going on. I go, I'm out of control.
Is that what people were
You think I'm cutting off other people? I cut off myself.
Yeah, seriously. Were people mad? They're like, is this where my money's going to?
No, they weren't mad. I think they were just like, coke much?
Coke much?
And then I think that, but
just so you know, we record this at like, it's 3 p.m. right now.
I know. They think.
Not a coke hour.
By the way, that's not the first time I've heard that about things I've done.
Oh, I'm sure. But like, obviously there's a context. Like there's one thing if we're like, yeah, it's fucking 2 a.m. and it's like, you know, it's one thing if it's clearly late.
Well, I want to apologize for putting too much energy in. That's my bad for being energetic.
Sorry for caring.
Sorry for giving a shit and deciding that, you know what, I'm going to put my energy into this instead of showing up.
Some of
that's what next podcast I show up. I go, yeah, boys cast. I guess we're doing this.
Sounds like some of the fans are becoming like naggy girlfriends. Sorry for caring, Sharon.
Before there's like a bunch of different things, but right out of the gate, because you've been sort of hyped up on this.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Fauci thing.
Yeah.
Him switch. I do think you've been hyped up on that online when I found an article that sort of suited your sentiment.
Yes. About the masks.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I was literally like, just because you're obviously like, where can you wear a mask? I got my haircut the other day, and they're like a masked haircut place, and I'm like, if I come back here for my next haircut and you're still a mask place, I'm not getting my haircut here.
Yeah, you showed up.
Like, dude, but I'm like, honestly, I've become sold though. Like, I'm becoming an anti-masker, but only because I'm like, when does this end?
I've seen though all your social media, all your TikToks,
Yeah.
everything is mask content. You've been jazzed up about it. Whereas I'm a little less jazzed up about it because I don't obey rules like you.
Yeah.
Whereas if I go to
I'm the latest anti-masker. Like,
I go
I'm
to the convenience
last
store and they go, put the mask on. I go, I'm not putting the mask on. And then, whereas you see the sign and you go, ah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be like fucking that guy who's like, not.
No, if I go to get a haircut and the guy says put a mask on, I'm not going to be like.
I walked in without a mask and they go, hey, do you have a mask? And I go, all right, here we go with this bullshit.
Well, I just love Fauci because he switches. So basically, and kind of I'm saying this where it's like the amount of takes and opinions that were blasphemous 6 months ago that are now currently the mainstream opinion.
The craziest one is, I don't know if you're talking about this, but the lab one. That's
obviously that's the centerpiece.
That's the craziest.
So literally everything that was, you're the biggest racist in the world. You know, are you crazy? You're my crazy uncle.
Twitter literally suspended Zero Hedge for tweeting that there was potential that it was.
This is happening all over the place. It's the same thing as the Isreal thing, which I'm not going to go into right now. But
Palestine.
There's legitimately people in mainstream thought that are putting ideas that got people banned from every platform in the world 6 months ago.
Yeah,
but the Fauci thing is so funny because he's done that with everything. Where he goes, you know, the masks, and then he was like, no masks. Then this is like his 10th time. We're 6 months later. So I was loving the idea of a sketch where it's Fauci comes out and he was like, honestly, I'm just such a nice guy. I wanted everyone to be right. So I wanted everyone to have a turn being right. Because all the people that were saying it didn't happen in a lab, they had a time to be right. I felt bad. So I was like, and I know that I'm the guy that, science decides who's right.
Yeah.
So I just think it's fun for everyone, to have a turn to be right. Imagine, I was saying 6 months.
I would be appreciating Fauci more if he's just trying to fuck with the conspiracy people. Like he goes, let's just take it for a fucking loop right now.
Well, I think Fauci's going to come out with everything like that. I think in 6 months, Fauci's going to be like, you know what? You guys are right. We do need to address the JQ.
He's going to start using the term scamdemic.
Fauci repost the scamdemic thing.
Scamdemic stuff, yeah.
That's what he's going to be. And he's going to be, actually race IQ's a convo that we need.
He's like on Stefan Molyneux's like fucking bit shoot. Like,
just a retweet from Fauci. That's me, Fauci. Just want to say that after some reflection and we've done some of the science, and I want to say Chinese people actually are bad at driving.
like based Fauci.
Fauci's going to come out and be, I just want to say again, science is always changing, and we went back to the test tubes. And after looking at that, it turns out Rand Paul kind of rules.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, imagine him and Rand Paul are just like buddies now.
Fauci comes out, wage gap's a myth.
Yeah, just everything.
This BLM thing, Fauci just comes out. He goes, hey, I'm not, this BLM thing, like, they probably should have had masks on there. That could have spread the virus.
Yeah, imagine he goes, in hindsight, probably shouldn't have made them special rules.
I was loving also the idea of, I was talking to the chick. She's like, just kind of jokingly when I was paying for everything. And she was like, well, that's covering the wage gap. And I was like, yeah, maybe the wage gap in Iran.
yeah, seriously. Like, in what currency?
Yeah, the wage gap of fucking Saudi Arabia maybe would be this lopsided.
Yeah, seriously. Like where you're legally not allowed to work, maybe.
Yeah, maybe that wage gap.
What's the gap between 0 and whatever I'm making?
I think Fauci's going to come out because he's obviously like Fauci's a chick, right? So he's going to come out with the chick thing and just be like, this was all just part of my journey.
Yeah, totally.
He goes, listen, I've been thinking about this whole thing. And yeah, you know what? I said that you couldn't wear masks. Then I said you could wear them. Then I said it was not allowed. No, I said, and that's something that I had to just experience.
This is probably stupid. What's his official position?
Doggy style getting fucked.
What's his job?
His official position.
Like he's the head of
head cuck.
Head cock, I guess. Cuck in chief.
Woo!
Cuck in chief.
Snort a line. That is every.
Did you see that thing on the Eurovision or the Euro, like the song competition or whatever?
No.
So they have that Eurovision, and then there was that movie with Will Ferrell. This big like European song competition thing. It's huge in Europe, and so this band that won, like as they're winning, it's like this like basically glam rock band from like that looks like from the 80s, these Italian guys, and then like the cameras on them, and like basically as they're being announced the winner, it looks like the guy just goes and does like a rail of coke, like on like live TV,
based
in fucking like the biggest show in Europe, like it's probably as big as like soccer is.
Okay, did
whatever.
he?
They don't know, and so then they made him take like a drug test, and he's like, so they made him take a drug test to prove, and he's like, I don't do drugs. They made him take a drug test, but the thing with coke is because he's like, I'll do it when I get back home or whatever. He's like, I'll take a drug test to prove it, but like coke notoriously doesn't stay in your system very long.
Yeah.
Like my friend's a pilot, and he's like, they say like if you're gonna do any drug, do coke because it's gone in your system. So then he's like, don't worry. He's like, when I get back, I'll.
This guy sounds like he rules.
But like, there's a video of him, and he goes, I was just cleaning up broken glass. That's what he said. Someone broke a glass, and he was like, I was cleaning. But it's like he literally like his face drops out of.
Our body had the best joke. I can't remember who it was, but he was in Vancouver. What's a Dino's buddy's name?
Dino's buddy's name.
I don't know.
What does it look like?
Fuck, I can't remember. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But he was like, he said this.
Kyle?
Always stuck with me. Yeah, I think so. And he was like, when he went to the airport, and he said the guy took him to the room, and they go, we found coke on your toothbrush. And he goes, well, I guess that makes sense because I do coke. He's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
You found a trace of coke? It's like, I don't have coke.
Yeah.
Then, who knows if he actually said that? This is the story he was telling us.
I don't know if I told you this. My friend, he was coming back. This is in probably late November, early December. I was talking to him, and he's from Amsterdam, and he lives in Toronto, and he was coming back from Toronto. But this is when you had to do the whole like 2-week, like, and you have to fill out the forms in Toronto. And he basically like didn't, and he tried to bypass it and just kind of like sneak out of the airport, and they like caught him.
Yeah.
And then they like took him into this room, and it was so dead at the time that he's like, he thinks they were trying to train somebody. Like
run a train on somebody.
Yeah. But they were like trying to train like the whatever border officer guy. So that's what like at least what his thought was. So they were like, basically, you know, they did the whole thing and they found coke on his toothbrush. He's like, I don't fucking, like, he's basically being like, I don't know. And then they were like, really giving him the shit where they're like, we're going to tear. And he goes, you know what? He's like, grab me a bucket. Cause they were saying like, maybe he had like swallowed drugs. He goes, cause he's coming from Amsterdam, which is big. He goes, grab me a bucket. He's like, I'm going to shit in a bucket right now. He's like, you want me to? And then that's when they basically were like, all right, you can go.
You got to go crazy.
He went crazy. He goes, give me a fucking bucket.
There was
He's
a
like, "I'll
lady
shit
that
in it
went
right
crazy on at the airport recently. Another Karen video was going. And there's the Karen thing where she was yelling and she goes, "I want to speak to the manager of the airport." It's pretty funny.
now." It's funny when you're like, there's.
I mean, anyone flipping out of the airport, even if it's like someone I literally would hate, I see them and I go, I get it.
Oh, for sure.
Anyone flipping out of the airport, I'm on their side no matter what. I go,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get
yeah.
it. But yeah, Fauci, I was like the idea that every girl, because I see so many, every girl I know, this is one the number one thing, no matter what they do, it'll be part of their journey. Like they got fired from their job, you know, cheated on their boyfriend. It's like, you know what? That was part of me, you know, just becoming a woman. I had to go through that.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, you drowned your kids. You're like walking away from you're walking away as your kids are being drowned. You're like, you know what? The journey of a woman, a woman's journey. They're crying in the background. Just need to focus on me a little bit.
Which puts her headphones in.
That was, yeah, put the headphones in. That's something that I needed to go through. But yeah, it's so funny because Fauci does all that stuff. And I was kind of thinking, imagine a world, imagine just for a second, we lived in a world.
I feel like this is like the start of a movie trailer.
Imagine a world where people cared as much about journalists and politicians lying as they did about comedians making offensive jokes. Just imagine a specific world. But so this article, because this is something that Danny has been souped up about all week.
I haven't. It's weird too.
And his best friend deleted him from all social media because he's an anti-masker.
Yeah, my best friend.
He's not an anti-asser though.
I love ass.
Do you remember when that's all every comedian was like, I fucking eat so much ass?
Yeah, it was like it became
topic.
a literal hack joke.
Think about it, that's how fucking lame comedy is, where it's like a hack joke was talking about eating ass. Like, because too many people were doing it.
Yeah.
Too many people had jokes about, you had to
Like
go to someone else, you go, in your joke about eating ass, do you know?
Yeah, do you like talk about how you like go around the rim counterclockwise?
Yeah, it's,
Like there's definitely some comic goes, has anybody ever done a thing where they're eating ass and there was poo? Like, yes, a bunch of
I think
people.
that one's been
That
covered.
may have happened.
Well, it all was the edgy. It's all the like fake edgy thing where you wanted to be like shocking or whatever, but no one. You're like, I don't want to talk about anything that's actually you're not supposed to talk about.
There was like
so it's like, what if I talk about eating ass?
There
like,
was 6.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There was like literally like a 6-month period where where crowds didn't have just like a visceral negative reaction to
Yeah,
the
they
topic
didn't like
coming
it.
up. Like now when it comes up, it's just people are like, ugh.
Oh, he's one of those comics.
Like, here we go.
Oh, another eating ass comic.
But
What
honestly,
genre of comic are you? Do you talk
Yeah.
about culture? Do you do men, women? Are you ass eating
Ass
guy?
eating.
And you go, yeah, mainly ass eating.
Mainly ass eating.
So this guy, and this is just, I think that this will drive you nuts.
Yeah.
Dear Prudence. So if you know what Dear Prudence is,
Yeah,
it's
it's
on the
like-
slate.
Yeah, it's like similar.
And they people ask her
Dear
questions,
Abby and all
and I went through a few of them. So basically, the questions, a lot of them, the gist is will be, my dad's really into Trump, and then she'll be like, never talk to your dad ever again.
Of course.
she there was this one girl. She was like, I was a black girl, and I was right after this article. I was adopted by 2 adopted white parents, and they're posting about coronavirus conspiracies, as she put it, and she was like, you know what, like just because they raised you doesn't mean you need to have them in your life.
Isn't the thing that Stefan
she goes,
Molyneux literally got like the most controversy about, besides the race IQ stuff?
What?
Was the defooing shit where he
What's
made
defewing?
that was the thing that Stefan Molyneux people had a real problem with, where people would tell him his problems and he goes, you need to cut your family off from you.
Oh, he was big into that?
That's his thing. And everybody gave him a lot of shit for it, being like, dude, that's fucked up that you tell people to like leave their whole family over like some minor thing. And then
I
it's
bet you when he got in trouble for that, he was like, really, this?
yeah, I know. Well, like even on Rogan, the last time he was on Rogan, like that was brought up, that about this was like this big controversy.
Yeah. Well, I kind of do get the idea of keeping people that are negative out of your life. And a lot of people, their parents, it's like every time they call their parents are kind of like, they end the conversation, they're in a bad mood.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Because they don't get what you're doing. But you do have, I think the real answer to that is you need to train yourself to not be, because you need to call your fucking mom. You need to,
Yeah.
whatever it is. If you see them once a month or once every 2 months, like you don't have to cut those people out, but you do need to find a way that there's so many people, every time you get off the phone with your fucking dad, they like make you feel like shit.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, you got to figure that out. You got to be more bulletproof. You go, don't get into it with them, keep it surface level.
Of course.
Because so many people
it's
are
like,
like,
literally, that's the point of talking about the weather. It's just
so many people are looking for the approval, and then they call and they put themselves in that. It's almost like a girl that fucking doesn't want to fuck you, and she's around, and it would have been fine if you're like, want to fuck, and she's like, ew, no, and now you're mad again.
Yeah, of course.
It was like, you just need to accept that you have to not be dependent on their fucking approval.
Absolutely.
But you can
Which
do
is
that.
hard for some people.
Yeah, well, the trick to that, a big trick, is just remembering that they're just a guy.
Yeah.
Like so many, you have your parents, oh my parents, but really you go, it's just a fucking dude. My mom's just a dude.
I would get skewered if I said that. Be like Robot Danny. My mom is just a woman.
It's just a dude.
By the way, I watched. Did you know that there's this new Borat show that he goes and lives with those two guys, and it's like this fake. It is so bad. So, okay, remember in the second Borat movie where he meets those two guys and he's like, "Can I quarantine with you?" And there are those two.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, that was in the
guys.
movie.
So, anyways, they made a full show out of it as well, and it's like almost like a TLC, like weird, funny, like show where this guy goes and lives with these two guys. But it's like
that sounds like a piece of shit.
I watched like the first like 15 minutes of it last night. And I was like,
That sounds unwatchable.
it's so bad.
Well, okay,
and he can't even hold the accent in it. It's really
well, if we're
weird.
jumping around,
Sorry.
No. If we're jumping around, I was gonna mention, because Sacha Baron Cohen, I've been saying forever for the last 3 weeks that, Mr. Isreal didn't really want to comment on this, right?
Yeah.
And I've been sort of every once in a while, I jump around to a few of those people's pages. I go, what is this person?
Yeah, he's got a new.
Okay, so he posted, this is what Sacha Baron Cohen posted, and we'll go back to the COVID article, but Sacha Baron Cohen posted, he said, the surge of anti-Semitism on the streets is fueled by anti-Semitism on social media, @Jack, @Twitter, and then stop Jewish hate, and then why do you allow the hashtag Hitler was right? So Sacha Baron Cohen's like one of the most complicated, fucking things of all time. Everyone's picking a side and no one knows what to do, and he's like, this started on Twitter. He thinks it's Jack Dorsey's fault.
It is Jack Dorsey's fault.
How fucking wild is that? He goes, legitimately, Sacha Baron Cohen thinks that the Israel-Palestine conflict because of fucking Jack Dorsey allows it. And the best part about these hashtags is, so the Hitler was right hashtag, like one person posts it, and then Sacha Baron Cohen reposts it, and then
That's how it gets trending.
because you can almost find any hashtag, right? And then he reposts it, and then a million people. I looked through the hashtag, literally 0 people supporting it.
Yeah.
Every single person is like, "Can you believe this is trending?" And it's like, because you keep posting it.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of stuff like that where you see something trending, you go, this is fucked up, and then it's all people being like,
No,
yeah,
it's,
this is.
it's not trending. It's reverse trending.
Well, but it is
It's
trending.
trending how bad it is.
Right, it's trending how bad it is, but
Hitler was wrong is what's trending.
But because they don't have a dislike button on Twitter, the algorithm can't tell the difference.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
They make so it's like you really are in a fucking information war where these people can make anything trend, and then they go, look, this is trending.
Right.
Like if you have a big enough platform,
I think
you could be like, Ryan's a pussy, and then retweet it. Ryan's a pussy's trending, and they go, well, it is now. And you go, can you? I don't know what my political point would be. But.
Well, I think the main thing though is Jack Dorsey would straight up be like, yeah, it's trending because you just tweeted this. It wasn't trending before. We're not changing.
I don't know if that's what Jack Dorsey would do. I think Jack Dorsey would be like, you're so right. We do need to work on that. But the Elizabeth Warren posted. That's another one. I've been following everyone. I'm going to make a video on.
I watched her have some big exchange yesterday with this dude from the bank.
Oh, I'm sure that was fun. She goes, anti-Semitism has no place in our country or world. Also, Islamophobia has no place in our country and world. We need to stand together and condemn all forms of bigotry. So that should also solve the whole thing.
Fixed it.
It's like basically the problem with Israel and Palestine is there's a lot of people in America that hate Jews and a lot of people in America that hate Islamas. Hate llamas. But yeah, you go, this is legitimately the equivalent. Like this kind of takes or is the equivalent of your parents or two people are fighting like a couple and then the guy like beat up the girl, and then the girl cheated on him with all her friends and all this stuff, and then people are saying like, oh, taking his side and she shouldn't have hit him, or whatever, all this stuff, and you go, we need to stop Doug phobia and we need to stop Linda phobia.
People are like good, very fine people on both sides or whatever. It's like, but again, it's like she's a politician. Like she didn't just tweet that. She's probably like her team.
I know, it's hilarious. But the point of the whole thing is you go, just admit that you guys don't have any views. Just admit you have no fucking views. You go, you take the temperature, you put your finger up, you take the weather, and obviously, but then next time you're pretending to cry for a speech, you go, we all seen you flipping and flopping around. We all see, oh yeah, the next time there's a fucking anything, next time Sacha Baron Cohen is out there blaming something on anything, if you go, no, this one's actually Jack Dorsey's fault. Anything that happens to me from now on, I'm going to take the Sacha Baron Cohen approach and go, this is actually Jack Dorsey's fault. And then none of the late night hosts talked about it. So 0 late night hosts, they all of a sudden are out of politics now.
Oh, they didn't talk
Jimmy
about
Kimmel didn't want to touch it with a fucking 15-foot pole. He's out of politics right now. Late night television right now is 100% funny anecdotes. That's the only thing they do. I was watching. It's like legitimately all these Hollywood people do is they go to like lunch with other Hollywood people and like walk around Beverly Hills trying to bump into them. So they have like a funny story about the time they bumped into Jack Nicholson.
Right.
That's if you.
I haven't watched it.
If you look at one of these pages, every clip is like the time I was walking my dog and then
bumped into Jim Carrey.
That's it.
And then they're like, "Hey, Trump sucks."
That's the whole thing. And then Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, I saw that.
He posted
Mark Ruffalo.
Based Mark Ruffalo. he backtracked.
Yeah.
So Mark Ruffalo goes, fucking Jews are genocide or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he came back and he goes, nah, honestly,
you know what's funny too? Is
I've
like,
educated myself.
The funniest thing too is like, regardless of if he was like, maybe he has Jewish friends or everybody who are like, yo, look, like it's not an actual genocide what's going on. Like the fact is,
Tell that to fucking 2021 early May Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, but it's the fact.
Ruffalo.
Like, I mean, it's been said, but it's like if the Israelis wanted to genocide the Palestinians, they could do it in a minute. Like it would be.
Is that a threat?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Mr. Polishekstein?
Yeah, but the funny thing is with Mark Ruffalo is the comments of that. Everybody's like, oh, the fucking Jews do run Hollywood. Look who he's scared to criticize. Like everybody just goes straight to like, oh, someone had some movie
a little
deals.
bit.
Well, I mean, sure. I doubt.
You don't think there's a little bit of Mark Ruffalo fucking taking a hard stance on that? And after he's been taking 4 years of hard stances that just get him patted on the back, and then he gets a hard stance and like all his agents, all his managers are like, what the fuck are you doing?
Bro.
And he goes, I thought that's what we were saying. I thought that's what we thought.
I'm consistent, if anything.
I thought that's what we thought. Well, just tell me what we thought. So they basically are. They get the script and then they go to their award show and they go, I am so sad about how bad Trump is.
It is, honestly, though, if you're a fucking
makes me laugh so much,
running a
dude.
network right now and you're Jewish, pretty tough spot. Because like if you go too pro-Jewish, then people are like, see, like it's a really like
if you are a guy, they run the
nothing,
media and you got to be like the head of Viacom says no we don't.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then like if you do nothing, then all your like family's like, yo, what the fuck?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Like what are you doing? Like there's this whole thing, and
that's what I'm saying. It is the first thing where there's kind of actually repercussions for these people having an opinion.
Yeah,
and I love it. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, see. You fucking see what happens.
The most minor of repercussions, though.
Most minor of repercussions to me, having to fucking show your hand that you're a coward to me isn't a minor repercussion.
Well, I'm talking about career-wise, I guess. Like Mark Ruffalo is like he's gonna go back to doing his
because he had to do that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, this article says, "Dear Prudence, I've been married to a great guy for 5.5 years. Married." He is handsome, sexy, funny, and kind. Opposite of Danny Polishuk, she says. He has always been a little...
Fuck you, Prudence.
He's always been a little prissy about illness, but I never thought it was a real problem. During the pandemic, however, his terror about getting sick has reached new levels. For the past year, he refused to take off his face mask, even while we were at home, just the two of us. So he won't. They're living together, and he won't take off the mask. This is even true now that he is fully vaccinated. So Danny's blood is boiling. He wears it to sleep.
Yeah.
Wears it to sleep.
That's fucking crazy.
And to do most of his bathroom activities. And
I mean, I've taken some mean shits though. I'll
and yes, during lovemaking.
No, stop. This is a lie.
It's not a lie. It's Dear Prudence. Even Dear Prudence was like, this is a lot. Isn't that wild? There's a guy out there. So it is kind of, it basically is a guy that's, whatchamacallit, like a germaphobe.
It's Howie Mandel, basically.
It's Howie Mandel. And then they basically, imagine before you thought, you go, anything I touch, I might get sick or whatever. And then you go, guess what? It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's in the air.
It's in the air. It's everywhere. You're going to die. Everyone's dying. This guy's fucking brain is fried. He's having sex with his wife.
No,
what do you mean? Why would she lie? He's going to the bathroom. He takes a shower with his mask on. To me, sleeping with a mask.
With the mask on. He's like fucking soaping his face. He like pulls it off, soaps it up, gets it in there.
They're out there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they're out there.
I mean, it's like Howard Hughes, basically. Like
who's Howard Hughes?
Remember he was the big like tycoon guy, and they did the parody of him in The Simpsons, where he was like he saw germs everywhere, and he was wearing like Kleenex boxes on his feet and all that shit.
Yeah, it is that guy.
Yeah.
Well, and he says, I've tried to present him with the science. He says, scientists don't fully understand the virus yet. I know this isn't probably necessary, but wearing it doesn't bother me. So if there's even a small chance it can protect us, I'd rather be safe on the safe side. What's the harm? And it's so funny because you literally, a lot of people have just the inability to fucking take their logic and then apply it everywhere else. You go, yeah, there's honestly no harm of wearing a helmet outside either.
Yeah.
When you're walking down the street, why don't you wear a helmet?
That's literally what I said to Pat.
Pat, what'd you say to him?
I said that. He goes, because so this comic.
Comic, yeah.
Yeah. And, but because he's like, well, isn't it possible that you can transmit COVID, if a vaccinated person can transmit COVID to somebody outdoors? And I'm like, if you're vaccinated, someone's not vaccinated wearing a mask outdoors, like, I don't know, 1 in 10 million. Like, why don't you walk around wearing a helmet all the time?
Why don't you walk around wearing a bubble?
Yeah.
They've legitimately become bubble boys.
Kinda.
He does not change his mask very often. It's often smelly and soiled, so he does take it off to shower. He's got to be.
There's one thing you'd be like, you're like a germaphobe, but then like an unhygienic germaphobe. That's sounding more like Howard Hughes too. It's like the lack of hygiene. It's like
it's so funny.
Like this is like a mental issue.
Well, these people have all lost their minds, and I don't know if you've seen, but fucking meanwhile in Canada, while this shit's going on. Did you see Trudeau? So he comes out and he says he's going to censor the internet, and he has this big bill.
Yeah, I've been reading about that for
so he goes,
while now.
Yeah, but it's like the fucking audacity when your country's like the only one locked down. Everyone's fucking, having a conniption. My mom is on her wit's end. And then you have this guy out here going, we should fucking lock down on the, what?
We should lock down your minds.
Do you know what the problem is? Isn't that crazy? And he goes, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has a plan to regulate speech on the internet by placing it under control of the Canadian Radio, Television and Communications Commission. And so whatever, that's what's going on. But you go, the fucking probably good priorities right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think it's going to go through, but the same thing happened where they just recently did. They said Call of Duty banned 350 accounts for racist names and toxic behavior.
Yeah.
And I was just watching it being like, do you guys want Trump? Because this is how you get Trump. Yeah. Legitimately. I go, have you learned nothing?
Yeah.
Have these people learned nothing?
I would like to know what constitutes toxic behavior these days on Call of Duty.
Well, your nickname was like, fucking...
Yeah, it was like some like
John, and it didn't have a hashtag. It didn't have your pronouns in it.
Right.
Ah!
Do you see that Instagram now lets you put your pronouns?
I know.
And then people are mad because it doesn't have enough pronouns.
Of course, well, you can have. It's give them an inch. They fucking want 2 inches.
There's like 42.
It's like girls, right?
Hey, there's like 42 pronouns, and all those people are like, "Where am I? Where I'm not represented."
Yeah. Well, people.
Speaking of pronouns, I watched the Jordan Peterson documentary on Amazon.
I watched that at Stand Up New York.
You watched it?
They did a premiere.
Oh, right. And then Brovidani was in it right in the beginning.
Really?
Everybody we know from Toronto Batman.
Well, with all these, so this is kind of a maybe a weird point, but with all this fucking, just watching the like everyone with the Israel Palestine just fucking their things shattering and all these people losing their brains over fucking all this shit. It was kind of like, because So, all right, how do I put this? I almost, when I was doing the videos, right? Like a lot of times I'm like, I don't want to get in fights with people and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And then I literally, because I did a lot and I had kind of got 2 videos done, I literally woke up yesterday being like, who the fuck wants to go? Because I'm like, I kind of had like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So a lot of me, so for one, I'm like, it's impossible to really be making anything really great because you go to sleep thinking about that. Like even when you're doing stand up really properly or anything, you're going to sleep thinking about that. You're waking up thinking about that. So I don't think anyone that's arguing on Twitter all day long or in feuds all day long could really be making anything that
No,
great.
it's like literally just a.
But when I had a few seconds, I was literally ready to go. I'm like, is it too late to like quote tweet a guy that said some shit to me 4 years ago? I was looking back, I go, I could get back into it with that guy. I'm like, I should make a fucking reaction to this guy. And I'm like, yeah, it was a week and a half. But so I was getting kind of hyped up on that stuff. But one of the things that I was saying about like how to be really good and the people that are great versus the ones that aren't, I think that there's almost this thing where sometimes you'll do a video and then 6 months later, it's almost like that doesn't need to be said anymore, right? So people are like, oh, you say this thing. You almost look back, you go, well, no, I said that at the time. I felt like it needed to be said.
Right.
And like the difference is when people talk a lot about the idea of, let's say you are kind of like trailblazing to some degree in some sort of sense, whether that's like idea-wise or something else, right? Mm-hmm. The problem that most people do is they stop adding to the conversation and they start being a mouthpiece for it.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean? People will be like, well, why don't you say this on this? And you go, well, everyone's saying it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're not thinking like...
Yeah, so I think that so many people, what they screw up is they essentially just become like the mouthpiece. It's like instead of being, imagine you were like a scientist, right? And you were working in a lab and you were sort of making stuff. And then once you guys kind of have your little niche, you just become a publicist for it essentially.
Yeah, like you did your work and now
a lot of these people.
Well, it's almost like resting on your laurels. You're like, you did the big thing and now you're just kind of coasting on it.
And it's easier and you could probably grow more in a lot of ways, whatever you're doing, by just sort of, just being the mouthpiece for like consensus of people that agreed with you. But I think that,
but again, it's like the path of least resistance is, especially when you have an audience, is saying stuff that they're all going to agree with. And you don't have a bunch of people yelling at you.
I know. And I think a lot of times that's why people spiral too. When you see people really spiraling, because the only other, unless you fucking are constantly like innovating, you just kind of need to be the more of that. You know what I mean? Like, let's say someone was like an edgy guy on the internet, right? The other way to do is like, I'll just say what's the most people are saying. I'll say like one above that. Yeah. Like what's your fucking joke? Okay, I'm gonna go more racist.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Which we know those people.
Yeah, and you just kind of try to one up that because that almost takes less thought too. So I think that those are all the sort of pathways that people go down.
The edgiest is like, by
you know what I was thinking,
default is almost
the Seth Rogen thing. If you saw that, right?
Yeah, the cancel culture.
Yeah, and everyone, I thought that was kind of like a perfect example about that, where it's like everyone sort of talks about it or whatever, but it does really expose like Seth Rogen's fake edginess, because you go. That's what I sort of thought about it. It's like, obviously Seth Rogen's going to be like, oh, he's going to say that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's going to say that. Was like, oh, I'm a fucking stoner.
That's what I'm saying.
When it was illegal.
But I would love to find have someone to make a compilation of all the times he was like, I thought we were going to get fucking in trouble with the studio. Like, I'm surprised they even made us make that.
The only thing
like
that's
the amount of times,
is the North Korea
the amount of times that he went all about like being like, I can't believe we were not. And then now he says that, you go, yeah, because it was fake. Like you were
the
phony.
North Korea movie one is the only one that's maybe valid, but
I guess so. But like, what was going to happen to him? He doesn't live in fucking North Korea.
Well, they were like worried about. No, my friend worked on that movie. I told you, and like they were actually like worried about. Fuck, I can't remember what it was. He was
You think
telling
that's a fucking hard stance to take in America? That to make fun of North Korea?
No, it's like it wasn't make. I can't remember. Fuck, I can't remember what he said. But he's like they actually did like run into some potential issues where like they were. You don't want like the North Korean government after like.
Oh, whatever. That's so ridiculous. They live on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
It's fucking. You live in fucking Hollywood. What the worst that's gonna happen is maybe what they did that hacked him or something.
Yeah.
You got
it was
you have
something like
zero
that.
threat. Everyone's on your team.
Oh, personally, no threat. Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, personally.
Financially, career-wise, or physically.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but I thought that was
But to be like, oh, super bad. That was pretty risky.
yeah. Which whatever. Like the movie was fine, but
It was a great movie. But...
and they all miss. They go, oh, some jokes don't age well, and you go, oh my god. It's like. Like, where do you start? You go, yes, it's obviously like Puritanism that is a culture. Like when they call it a culture, when you have literally people digging through everyone's stuff, you go, yes, you're right. If fucking people get mad, they can get mad. And some jokes don't age well. But there's a difference between that and an entire like arm of the fucking media and entertainment that's dedicated to digging through years of people's stuff. Like, yeah, that's why it's called a culture. And you go, and it's because it's like, and it's because the norm to do that now. It's like, that's why we go, like when politicians they would call it attack ads.
Yeah.
When you go through and you go, we found out that this guy punched out a guy in a bar and you go, this guy says he cares for the people, but he knocked out a military veteran in a bar fight. Like
of course. It's just like straight up.
That's what they do to you.
Yeah.
Now that's what they do to people.
Well, it's also because they don't have like any proper journal. Like that's what they think journalism has become, is like removing entertainer.
Yeah, and also on top of that, there's this idea with people like that where they're always talking about, the opinion. Well, opinions change a lot. Like so many people that talk about that, they go, well, the thing changes. It's like, so is there anything that you actually think? Do you know what I mean? Like if every time I saw you, you go, yeah, I have this new set of opinions that changed.
They changed.
Well,
I mean, obviously, like comedy doesn't,
no, but
lots of comedy doesn't age.
Yeah,
well.
but a lot of comedy doesn't age well for the reasons of cultural. It's like that's the shit I'm saying kind of before, where it's like, yeah, like if ever, when Jerry Seinfeld was making fun of like shampoo bottles, after 5 years, then someone else took that too far, and then eventually everyone just gets sort of tired of that.
Yeah, it becomes hacky. Like you basically are like find this thing, and then other comedians copy you to the point that the thing you originated becomes hacky.
And and that's to say that it sucks or whatever, and that's fine. But to say opinions where you go, this is how I kind of interface with the world. And if that changes every 4 years, you go, so you think nothing.
Yeah, you think nothing.
You go, what do you mean?
Like what's acceptable.
Guys, our opinions changed.
Yeah, you just think the consensus.
We all changed.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah,
but again,
I've said that before, but what a coincidence.
Path of least resistance.
What a coincidence that it happens that you happen to change at the exact same time that the acceptability changed. Like, what a fucking coincidence.
I mean, it's the easiest thing to do.
So, I was moving on from that. The one quick thing was because I've been sort of going on to interviews, and we had this conversation here too, where people go, the opposite end of that is like, yeah, but whatever, they can do their cancel thing and be that. It's like, and I've been accused of being like too optimistic a couple times by people saying, well, you just, like I'm too positive on the future.
Yeah.
Whereas people are, it sells more on every side to be like, this is a disaster. Like,
right.
Wokeness is going to ruin the world or whatever. Right.
Bad.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that my fucking opinion on that, which I wanted to say, was it's not that I'm okay. So the first part about that is like I had another like series of industry conversations because we're talking about we're doing this movie, and I was talking to the manager and those guys about and they were basically like, yeah, we kind of did a round of meetings about different things, and it's like there's zero chance that they're making anything with like a white guy like that. It's just
of course,
it's basically Irish need not apply.
Yeah, essentially.
Which is kind of funny that it went full circle back to no Irish.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were saying last episode with like in Canada, they hired all those people for CBC, and you're like, yeah, nobody we know is working.
No, of course.
Yeah.
But the thing that I was kind of saying was, I guess I've been dealing with this my whole life because I've never been in the mainstream thing. So I think certain people, this is coming out of nowhere. They go, all of a sudden I'm, what I thought was the main thing hates me or whatever, right? Whereas me, I'm like, everything I've done was like, despite the fact that I was who I was. Yeah. Like even when we were the fucking, the crazy punk band, we would get on TV and stuff like that, despite they didn't want those kind of bands.
Yes.
When even as far as when I played sports and when I was in like the school play and it was like, okay, we're going to pick you for this part. Like we want you to be the lead, but like, we really didn't want to, like, because you're a fucking nuisance.
Yeah, you're a nuisance.
I mean,
yeah, of course.
How many, and then
literal nuisance.
Managers, agents have been like that, where they're like, we want to sign you, but it's like, you're a problem. So before this stuff, my whole life has been.
By the way, when they say you're a problem, you're doing the thing with the knife through the hands. Well, they're like, Ryan, you're a bit of a problem, and you're like, what?
So I've never been in that stuff. So that's a part of it where this is more aggressive and it's racially motivated or whatever it is. But I go, but also this has been my whole life.
Yeah.
Up until this point, it's just a different version of that, of the mainstream. Now the mainstream is the race. But more importantly, and then I think the best argument they make is go, well, easy for someone to say, but I go, what if you're 50 and you are about to lose your job or whatever, if for saying your opinions? And then to that, I'm like, yes, but I'm not fucking talking to 50-year-olds. So that's a separate conversation. But I go, my fucking fan base is not 50. I'm talking to people that are 20 and 30. And I'm sort of saying, if you look at this thing and you go, oh, this is like a bad place, I'm not going to be able to thrive here. Yeah, you should change it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And even if you're 40, like you still have time. Even if you're 40 and you work at like a big tech company and you make $300,000 a year, fucking keep your head down for 3 years. Don't spend a lot of money, save $500,000 and you could do something else and you still have plenty of time. So I'm always like back to the individual thing where I'm like, no, I'm not saying this stuff doesn't suck. I'm saying for you, it doesn't have to. So
Yeah.
that's kind of,
I mean, I've been for many years, especially friends of ours in entertainment who are like, just because so many people had like, didn't ever want to like even address that because they're like, oh, I don't want to like come off as being racist or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you have no sense of self-preservation at all, because what's going to happen is you're going to willfully be like, yeah, don't pick me. And then they're just going to like move on without you.
so funny watching people try to do that.
And then you're going to be so far gone and you're going to realize like, oh, like my whole career is over because I just was kind of like, thought like someone should take my place or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, yeah. And you're not ever working again.
Right.
In entertainment, and you're like, because you didn't want to come off as like racist 5 years ago, you were worried that what people would think, so you kept your mouth shut. But regardless, the outcome is you not working. Like either you said something then you don't work, or you said something now you didn't say something and you don't work.
Either way, all paths lead to that. But one path,
at least go out guns a-blazing.
Exactly, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of those people, at least they didn't have to get like yelled at, and they didn't have to get socially
and,
shamed.
Yeah, exactly,
by the,
and some people don't have that constitution
by the cool
to be able
kids.
to
They don't
to take it.
And I get all that stuff, but I go, everyone has the constitution to like look at the fucking world and go, okay, how can I win the best? And honest to God, maybe it's in the fucking feminism years, maybe it is the fucking time for some dudes, the laziest dude in the world, to be like, yeah, dude, get my fucking COVID check. I'm going to fucking find a girl that makes more money than me, and I'm going to stay at home and play video games. Like maybe that was the dream, but there's always a way to win for who you are.
Of course.
If your goal was, let me do as little as possible, and now I'm getting flacked because I'm not the fucking right thing on my work, I go, maybe it's time to find a sugar mama.
Yeah,
there's
but
always
the women don't want that.
Yeah, but you can find it. You just find.
You can find it.
I'm just saying it's one of a million things. I know 2 people that have that.
Yeah.
We know lots of comics that fucking, they sold the girl on the dream of like, baby, I'm gonna be fucking Dave Chappelle.
Right.
And now you make 20 grand a year and the girl makes 60 grand a year and you go, yeah, we make 80 grand a year.
Yeah. Also, can I have an advance on my allowance?
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, I think
yeah.
that when people say I'm positive, I go, yeah, I mean, obviously you can look at this stuff and go, it's crazy, but I'm more so I go, what the fuck are you, what's your, it's how to win.
Speaking of but I also agree with for being positive is because watching the Peterson thing, and it's like all these negative people really are giving oxygen to this fire that would not be there Like the Peterson thing, you watch it and you go like, if they just didn't give him this like counter protest, he would have had a video with fucking 20,000 YouTube views.
I know.
And like, if they didn't make this whole spectacle going against him and like, you know, blaring their speakers and like trying to basically like pull the microphone out of his hand, it would have been nothing. He would have not been touring. He would have been a fucking U of T professor.
Well, authoritarianism doesn't fucking let one slip, do they?
But it's like, it was
they picked the wrong villain with Peterson when they were like,
but I'm saying
let's fucking take this guy down. And you go, he was like, is that all you got?
Yeah, well, but I'm saying like, it's the, you know, if you pick your battles incorrectly, you actually will like make what you
that's a good point.
You know, like,
yeah.
like it's so when you're saying you're optimistic, you're like, yeah, the
It's
more
literally
complainers, the better.
It's literally the fucking Johnny Blanco from Johnny from the Billy from the Block or whatever in that mob movie where it's the new guy that comes out and the old guys like dismiss him of him like, oh, whatever, like we'll just go punk this guy around and that'll be the end of it. Yeah. And then you like, he's been sitting there stewing and building a fan base like they're coming for you for the rest of the years. But that's why with John Cena, you know, everyone was kind of like, he's a bitch.
I didn't know he could speak Chinese. That was the thing. Everybody was like, I was like,
John Cena speaks Chinese.
They were so mad. And I was like, the dude speaks like pretty.
He speaks
good.
Chinese?
His apology.
Are you sure he wasn't just like mocking it? Like, hey, I know.
Dude,
imagine he did though. He came out and he goes, also, I'm going to apologize in Chinese. Ching chong, ding dong. And they go, is that it? Oh, sorry, I'm still working on it.
No. I fucking listen. I watched that video because Dino Archie posted it and I watched it and I was like, oh, he speaks like pretty good Mandarin. Like,
interesting.
You can tell someone who's like reading like a phonetic thing versus like speaks it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Well, Tim Ferriss always talks about how he can speak Chinese. He loves that about himself.
No, Japanese. But he lived in Japan.
He loves that about
John
himself.
Cena, you could tell John Cena was like, oh, this is probably a good career move to just like get it. He's probably had
when John Cena fucking apologized or whatever, it's like, yeah, it's a bitch move, obviously, but that goes back to the other thing. It's like, guy's 55, he's making movies. He's like, I just have a job. I get like, you know, to some people where you go, John Cena's not like that crazy overtly fucking woke, is he?
No, more importantly, he's like, when I actually understood it more.
He's like, yeah, this apology is going to save me $80 million.
Not even that, but I understood it even more when I heard him say the apology in Mandarin. I was like, oh, you want to be like the biggest guy in China, 1.5 billion people or whatever.
Right.
Like, yeah, what an easy decision for you. You spent all this time learning Mandarin.
And now you're the enemy.
And then you're the enemy of this country that you learned.
Is that why he learned Mandarin? So he could fucking be a bigger star? What a fucking careerist.
Of course. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, like the whole thing makes complete sense. Yeah. Why would you like...
So it's easy to kind of, for people to... anyone that has no skin in the game to be like, what a bitch.
Like if I heard him in English being like, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize, that would be one thing, right? But like he obviously has... But he said it in Mandarin.
I thought he did both. Or
maybe
I didn't even know about this Mandarin.
Okay, I saw the Mandarin one, which I was like, yeah, this guy wants to be like the biggest actor in China. He wants to be
a swinging dick in China.
He is, obviously, and like he wants to be like Bruce Lee, basically, or not Bruce Lee, fucking Jackie Chan.
Yeah, I found this pretty funny fucking article with like, so Vice. Have you been following this whole defund the police thing?
Yeah, I've been keeping up with it. I've like basically I love the best being like, here are all the states that have defunded cities that have defunded the police, and they're like, they also coincide with the highest crime.
Here's murder she wrote, murder she wrote. That's the defund the police slogan.
I mean, crime's getting up here in New York, dude. I just on the walking over here today, or actually, sorry, coming back from the gym earlier.
Sex crimes have been up now that fucking anti-maskers out.
I saw on where was this? On 14th Street, a guy straight up shooting heroin.
Nice.
And I was like, we've lived here for how long? Never seen that.
Badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like that when the rats are crawling on them. That's when it really.
But I'm saying like that's
real New York fucking experience.
It is a bit of a sign that like, you know, those like people who are heroin are like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this on 14th Street. I don't even care. They're not enforcing.
No, dude, you don't need to tell me about crime being back, my friend. I don't even know if I wrapped up my saga for everyone, but as people know, the homeless people were out or whatever, not even homeless. Like they set up a market and they were blasting music, and then so. I was getting in fights with them, and my chick's like, "Hey, I'll go down and deal with him." So I go, "Okay, obviously I'm not gonna do that." Where she's out there giving him a talk. I'm looking out the window.
Yeah.
I'm looking out the
Honey,
window.
do you need any help? I'm here for moral
So it's
support.
out of the option. So I had to go down there and yell at them and stuff. But so what happened at the end of it? They're gone now because basically the bodega owner got in a fist fight with these guys.
Nice.
So yeah.
Fuck yeah, Newman.
So Newman got in a fucking fist fight with the guy. Then they came back. Then the other bodega guy, and they had all these things. Then the cops finally came, and then the guy just decided to go set up a couple doors over because he got in a fist fight. And then the next day, I'm not kidding. So I was gone. So I heard this from Newman, and he told me, as it happened, I'm walking from the bodega back to my house. A guy, he goes, "This just happened." I walk into my door. As I'm walking in, a guy's setting up a drum kit.
Of course.
I go, "What is going on right now?"
the other
and then he goes, yeah, we're just going to play. I go, "It's 8 p.m. on a Sunday." I go, "I don't want to tell you this, but like this just happened," and the guy got the shit kicked out of him. So
Dude, well, it's like I posted on Instagram where I was like, I was walking home like whatever last week, and like there's a dude doing like freestyle raps like under your bedroom window.
It's wild.
And then they're like all passing the mic, and like the one guy I was like, oh, this guy's not bad, and then someone took it. I'm like, this guy sucks, and they're so loud like directly underneath. Your
yeah,
bedroom
their
window.
band is called the Disruptive Three. I had to go down there with my point to my watch like, "Boys,
Yeah.
it's 11 o'clock on Sunday night." So anyways, those guys are gone too, but it's been a whole debacle.
It's so crazy too. Like, do you ever look at some of the stuff that people sell outside your house? I saw yesterday.
Fucking junk.
No, so they sell. One woman was selling ground beef. Like she was like in the sun. She was sitting.
Well, that's because they steal it.
But I'm saying, like, okay, pistachios, steel pistachios, sell them. They're not ground beef. You're outdoors. Like,
Yeah. No, I told you the girl was selling bags of fucking milk one day. That's the least weird thing they're selling. But this guy, the Vice goes, Vice has a good article. You know how we were saying, like, have you tried just not being racist?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have an article that says, what if we just stopped calling the cops?
I saw that. I saw that trending on Twitter. I'm like, I'm not clicking this.
Vice fucking rules, dude.
Like, that was the thing. That was, what would happen if we stopped calling the cops? And it's like, what do you think would happen? Like, what are you talking? What kind of questions?
They've got some banger fucking
What would happen
explanations.
if we stopped calling the fire department? Your house burns down. That's what happens. And then you win because you didn't call the fire department, but you're sleeping on the streets.
All of their stories are so good. They go, for decades, the solution for Black Americans was to just not call the cops. Now white people are catching on too that they should not call. To be honest, there's a little part of me that for most things, I don't call the cops because they're not going to do shit.
I've
Like, have you
never called the cops.
No, but you ever had someone where you were like, someone stole something from me and you go, I remember one time, like someone stole from me and you call the cops. You're like, "Hey, this guy stole my stuff. I know who it is." And they're like, "I mean, you can file a report, but like, I'm going to be honest with you. We don't do anything."
Yeah, they're like, it's
They don't do shit.
not opening an investigation.
No, but they already weren't doing all that
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
But the way that Vice thinks is if I said, "Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't mention this." Black guy. They go,
They're like, they're all going down the pole like in a firehouse.
"Cancel my 5 o'clock." Yeah, well, oh my God, you didn't say it was a. So Jeanette Singleton heard gunfire outside of her house in Warren, Ohio, one night in August 2020. 2 days later, she saw bullet holes in her and her son's cars. She was scared, but she knew she couldn't call the police. So there's 3 stories.
And so, what did she think would happen?
Well, she thinks if the police come, they'd come rough her up. You know what I
Just
mean?
beat her up for calling the police.
They'd
Or
be-
don't fucking waste our time with these. What? Just because your car got shot up?
That's just a little taste.
And then
of
like
what they're
one
talking
just like
about.
huge guys like holding her arms
Yeah.
back while another guy.
But
Just
the
feeds
best
them.
is because their stories aren't. The stories aren't. You'd think the stories would be, "Hey, I called the cops and this is the bad thing that happened."
Purely hypothetical.
They're just saying, no, it's not hypothetical, but it's well, it's hypothetical that a bad thing would happen, but they're saying like that. Yeah, we just stopped calling the cops. Like for example, yesterday I was the shit got beat up of me and I didn't call the cops because that's my politics.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. They're just like, yeah, just don't call the cops. You go, okay.
And then did you guys ever solve who's had a gunfight outside of your house? No, and we don't plan to. Maybe next time we'll figure it out.
All right.
This one's great, but the other one's even better. No, the second one's great. I mean, the third one's even better. Singleton, a 60-year-old licensed therapist and social worker, is black. So is her 29-year-old son. And just a few months earlier, she'd seen yet another example of what would happen if a black American, when the police were called for the most innocuous of crimes. So basically, I guess all this stuff's this is what like Vice is saying, but it's like fear mongering at their best, where it's like, listen, if you're a black guy and you call the cops, like, you're fucking dead.
Yeah, dead.
You're dead, mate. It's also it's funny, like the Vice employees too, where this is a Vice employee. It's like, I would fucking love to see a gunfight outside of a Vice employee's house and see if they call the cops.
Williamsburg
and see if they call the cops.
Yeah.
This is what they're peddling. They go, honestly, even if a gunfight's happening outside of your house, you shouldn't call the cops. I'm like, I have a feeling you would.
Yeah.
I have a pretty fucking good feeling you would. Just deal with the gunshots yourself. Should I get a gun? Oh, what?
Yeah, right. That would be like,
This is like such a NYC like liberal bullshit. But it's like a gunfight's happening outside of your house. You're like, yeah, you should never call the cops. Like, what should you do about it? Well, I mean, listen, even if you get killed, if the cops came, they would have killed you twice.
right.
Especially if you're not white.
Plus, think about like, you know, those people's circumstances who are having, like, they have to be in the gunfight because of
Right.
systemic racism and all that
So
stuff.
she wanted someone to investigate the bullet holes. Yet she had to consider the optics. Oh, this is the same one as the first one, but still. Officers might look at the damage and think her son did it. She was worried they would assume her son's a drug dealer or a gang member and they could hurt him, she thought. So this one's not as crazy where you go, all right, listen, if there was gunshots in your car and it's already done, and then you might go, yeah, what's the point of
yeah, like, what are you going to get
okay.
CSI forensics to, like...
Yeah, but I think that one of the people that people forget about this stuff in general is with like cops when they're saying like they wouldn't do anything. One of the reasons why people do less crime is like the threat. It's kind of like the immigration stuff. It's that idea of like, well, yeah, people are less likely to commit crimes when they know that cops aren't going to be
literally
called.
in New York, it's like the crimes when they just have
they know it's not being
they have-
prosecuted,
but also
yeah.
they have routine patrols when they had more just literally cars, cop cars driving around your area. There's less.
And by the
crime.
way, this is fucking all under the pretense that cops fucking suck.
Yeah.
But it's like, yes, your options are limited when you're being fucking murdered.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, again, we did a cop video this week. It's actually not super politically motivated one way or the other, but it's pretty funny. But so that's the same might of Leah Knox, 36-year-old sales operation from Greensboro, North Carolina. She took when someone pulling out of a gas station hit her car. The driver appeared to be a Latino teenager who was very stressed and scared. Sensing his fear, she didn't want to put any more pressure on him by calling the cops. So Knox told him that they can just exchange information and she'll admit, as long as they admit that it's their fault. They both could move on without getting the police involved. He cooperated completely and his insurance came through and paid for the repairs. So that's an example of the same thing.
Yeah, it sounds like you didn't need the cops. It sounds like
Yeah.
So basically, what? So you were just worried, like, yeah,
She's
like why?
patting herself on the back.
Like,
oh, you had a gunfight outside your house and didn't call the cops? I had the exact same thing.
Like there's
I also had a situation where I didn't call the cops. I got an fender bender and the guy agreed to pay for it.
like I know in Canada, there's like a certain threshold where the police have to be notified.
No, exactly.
But it's like if you don't,
Well, you need to go to the collision center if you want
the collision
insurance
center.
to pay for it.
Exactly, you go to the collision center.
But this is a girl being like, fender bender. What happened? A nice guy agreed to pay for it. So yeah, a couple people not calling the cops. Just a couple people that don't call the cops. But if not the cops, who should you call? And then they have, a lot of people like the social workers and other professionals, which again, for the problem outside of my house, I would be down to call those people. If you said that was also an option, that would be a better person to call if I had fucking a bunch of guys like causing havoc outside
would
of
be
your
a
house.
sick option. I don't know if you could do this. Is you call the fire department, they hook up the hose and they just hose them all away.
They have to be white at that point. A lot of them are white, but
No, or the
optics
fire department could not be non-white. Be like, hey, send all your best black firefighters.
to
We gotta
hose down
hose
some
these.
homeless.
We gotta hose down these people.
Hose
them, but like you hose them away, like you're cleaning.
hose
the
it down the
driveway.
homeless. So Mary Reimers, a white 28-year-old legal aid attorney, believes that too. But Reimers believed it wasn't just her imagination. An intruder broke into her house, and calling the police for help wasn't an option. So this is my favorite one, probably. But in this case, she's in her house, and there's an intruder currently in her house. But she knows if she calls the cops,
He'll hear her.
No, she's saying if she calls the cops will kill them both.
But she's white.
No, this girl's black.
Oh.
So she says calling the cops wasn't an option. Well, she's currently experiencing home invasion. Police scare Reimer more than any home intruder ever could. And the calling the cops goes against her politics, too, she said. So that wasn't an option for her.
She said calling the cops goes against
That's a quote, yeah. So as an unknown person wandering around her first floor, can you imagine this? Imagine your chick's like, hey, there's a fucking intruder wandering around my house right now. You're like, yeah, call the cops. She's like, well, my politics.
It's like, dude, it's like the equivalent of like the fucking like in the Sahara. It's like some lion stalking a zebra. A zebra's like, can we just talk about this? And you're like, no, I'm going to eat you.
So Mary Reimers barricaded her bedroom door on the second floor and started to text friends to let them know what was going on. And for reasons that she can't explain, she also posted what was happening on Twitter. The Twitter cops. So that should probably solve it. But also, but this is the best part. She goes, there's currently someone robbing my house, she said on Twitter, and then said, I'm upstairs safe and fine, but what should I do? I was hoping they would just leave, but they haven't left. She added, if any of you call the cops, I'll kill you. I do not want cops in my house.
I'll kill you.
Yeah. I think she's being hyperbolic with that, but she's basically, she posted on Twitter, I'm currently being home invaded. Don't call the cops though. Like, why are you posting this on Twitter then?
I mean, cool. Then fucking just.
Yes, but obviously, like, imagine the fucking drama queenness. Imagine your girl is like, she's like, hey, there's someone broke into my house. I go, I'm going to call the cops. She goes, don't call the cops. Post on Twitter, I'm getting broken into. And everyone's like, we'll call the cops. Like, nobody call the cops. But I would need everyone to know this. You go, the attention drama from this chick.
Like, it's stuff like that where I go, like, what are the odds that even happened?
That's probably kind of low, to be honest. I think you might be on something with that theory.
That's like just a fake, like, you know.
So instead, Reimers called a friend to come pound on her door and scare the intruder off. But someone did call the cops anyway because she blasted it on all of her social media.
That's so imagine there's some fucking like armed person robbing your house, and then like you're like, hey, come over. Can you just like make a distraction? Fuck you. It's like, are you crazy? Like, imagine your house is getting robbed. I just need you to make a distraction.
She might if we call the cops. It's like, no, I was actually hoping that you'd come over. And bring your trumpet.
Yeah, it's like, what if the person has a weapon?
Yeah, well, she doesn't. She thinks this is the best option right now. We just stopped calling the cops. You go, you're taking this a little far. You go, nope, my politics.
These are my politics.
So then the officers arrived at her dress because the Twitter people, and the person who had broken in was able to escape without harm or being arrested. So that's good news.
Yeah, that's good news.
So that's that one. That was pretty good. And then the last one, which these two are both good. I don't know what's better for drama queen of the year, would you say? So you give the award of Marie Weimers or Jennifer Lewinsky for drama queen of the world.
Okay.
So Jennifer Lewinsky's 44.
Sounds right.
I think it's a white girl, was in a relationship that became abusive. She couldn't call the cops in her hometown because Lewinsky feared the police would hurt her boyfriend. He was also on parole, so an arrest could have ruined his life, even if he's hurting me. He's still a person that I love and don't want him dead. You go, that's not politics, sister. Mm-hmm. That's like your standard girl who's...
Yeah, it was like you're in an abusive relationship.
Yeah, this is a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Where you go, I don't want don't want to call the cops. I'm not gonna testify on my husband who beat the shit out of me. And you go, but her take is like, but if cops weren't so mean, I would be able to call the cops.
Right.
So she can't call the cops as her boyfriend's beating him up, and she goes, "Huh, you happy, cops? I can't even have to just
cops
get beat
are
up."
Such pieces of shit that they don't really take well the dudes beating up their girlfriends. They don't really like those guys.
By the time Lewinsky and someone else were forced to call law enforcement in 2015, the conflict between the couple had seriously escalated. So now after 3 years of beating her up,
she goes, maybe the cops might be.
No, she still doesn't want to tell. I mean, she wished she could. She wished she lived in a perfect world where she could call the cops, but that's not an option. She didn't want to rely on traditional law enforcement, of course. Lewinsky and a volunteer therapist went and knocked on the neighbor's door to see what they could do. Nobody answers. But they were able to leave a note saying they didn't want to call the police and were able to help. So this is...
On the neighbors?
So basically, someone else wanted to get involved, and she very insisted no cops. So they got a therapist involved who sorted the whole thing out by leaving a note on the front door saying, "You can call me if you need anything."
For the neighbors.
Yeah. So next time you're having this, next time you're getting the shit beat out of you.
Yeah.
No, it's like a volunteer therapist, right? That they're an alternative to cops.
Yeah.
But what they did was they left a note on the front door, basically saying like, I got you next time if you need it. If you need anything next
okay.
time. Yeah. And they go, that should do it, I think. That'll do it. These people sort of like the Vice people sort of live life like it's a video game. You know what I mean? Like they sort of look at like, oh, we'll just do this. And like none of it's real. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, if someone's having a knife fight outside of your house, just leave them a note. It's like they live like it's a video game.
Yeah, it's like you're like a sweet old grandma.
Yeah.
It was like so cooked where you're like, just leave them a note.
Yeah, and you go, yeah, okay. She comes out with another black eye the next day. Like, turns out the note didn't work all that great.
Where do you think they find these people for these articles?
I think a lot of them probably work there, but I think a lot of people write in their stories about things. So they do a lot of things where, remember old Jerry Springer?
Yeah.
They're like, do you have a story?
Right,
Are you dating your two cousins and your dog at the same
you won't
time?
Call the police?
Yeah.
Texas, yeah.
That's an option Lewinsky wishes she had. Her arrest did nothing to solve the actual problem at hand. She said, so that's what happened. Someone did call the cops after she was getting the shit beat out of her. And she goes, that's an option she wishes she had. Her arrest did nothing to solve the actual problem at hand. And after she got out of jail, Lewinsky went back to her abuse. Oh,
So she got arrested?
Why did she get arrested? So she got arrested. Oh, I remember. I guess I didn't include that. So what happened was eventually he beat her up so much that she stabbed him.
And she got arrested?
They both got arrested.
The ultimate irony where she's like, no cops. And they're like, yeah, you just stabbed the guy, so we have to arrest you. She goes, no, I hate cops.
I'm not a cop person.
She goes, I'm not a cop person, so I'm not cool with this. And they go, okay, yeah.
But she's saying she wouldn't have had to stab them if she was able to call the cops, but she
Yeah.
wasn't able to because she thinks they shouldn't exist.
Yeah, I think what she needs to do is petition her politicians to make stabbing legal.
That's what decriminalize stabbing. Just a good old fashioned knife fight. So basically the guy beat her up to the point where she stabbed him.
Yeah.
All of this is the cop's fault. Then she goes, and she wishes she had called the cops. That's an option she wished she had. So her arrest did nothing to solve the problem of getting beat up. So after he got beat up and stabbed the guy, her arrest did nothing.
It'd be funny if she got beat up in jail too. Like it's like that thing too where she's in jail. She goes, don't we hate the cops? And they're like, fuck.
Yeah.
you.
Well, after she got out of jail, Lewinsky went back to her abuser for a time, all because of the cops. And eventually she was able to leave. And to her knowledge, the guy still hasn't gotten counseling or resources that might help him deal with his abusive tendencies. So none of this got solved.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's kind of a lot
he
of
got
that
stabbed.
thing. This is that fucking person that's like failing out of school and bad, parent. They're dropping out of school. They can't keep a job. They've got like an abusive boyfriend, and they're like, "Thanks, Dad, for doing this to me, putting me in this situation. If you had set me up properly, I wouldn't have had to be this.
I wish if I had never been born.
Yeah, well, if you fucking gave me the proper resources, Dad, I wouldn't be in this situation." Anyways, this has been...
I'd like to give the award, by the way.
Okay, who's the award?
The intruder.
The intruder is the award. Marie.
Yeah, Marie. That's fucking crazy.
Before we go, and another episode, as always, on patreon.com/theboyscast. And one thing that's good about the Patreons that I've noticed is since we started doing them every single week, a lot of people have joined, but 0 people have left. Whereas before, people used to leave more, but on the...
Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. But those are for the people who have already left. They're not even here.
I think it just wasn't enough content. But now, no, zero people have left. Like, it's very... You just see all the people that came and all the people left. All satisfied customers, you might say.
It's a fucking one-way turnstile. Only coming in, nobody going out.
But this was fucking making me laugh so much. So our friend Corinne... Her dad owned a baseball card store, and Danny's really big into trading cards and all that stuff. So she owns and then she's like taking it over this baseball card store. And I filmed the video with her last week, and she's like, Danny volunteered to come work at the baseball card
No,
store.
I said I would
So you're gonna
help
take a
her.
part-time?
No.
No, that's not what she
I
said.
didn't say I was going to come work there. I was like, if you need help with
I
anything.
find out Danny took a minimum wage job working at a baseball
That's funny how
card store.
she interpreted that. I was like, she's
That's not what she said. She said you were like if you're hiring.
hiring. What are you talking?
She said you're gonna
She
come
did
work.
not say that.
Yes, she did. She said you're gonna come work at the baseball card store for $15 an hour.
What? I literally was like, if that's what she said, that's.
But you,
hilarious.
I, the way I interpret it is like this was a dream of yours, like a kid that's like always wanted to be a pie eater. Like it was a dream of
I was
yours
like-
to work at a baseball card store.
I was like, her fucking. She's got to do this whole moving this store, and her dad's sick. I was like, if you need help, I was like, I'll come help you.
That's not the way I heard
I'm not
it.
trying to like get a fucking part-time job for 12 hours a week.
That's I heard that you were gonna go work part time, like with the uniform, and that's what she's
Take up smoking.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
You're like literally quitting comedy to go fucking work a minimum wage job at the baseball card store.
In Westchester.
This is what she said.
Okay.
So this is not. So you're saying it's false.
I mean, if you're being serious,
I'm being dead serious. This is how I interpret it. I interpret it as
I
like
literally was-
you really wanted to do this. The money's not important. But I'll take. Like I'll
I
obviously.
don't want to work a cash register at a baseball card
That's
store.
what she said.
I was literally like, her
He said
dad
you're taking
is,
a job at the.
No, it's like her dad is like ill. She has like this whole fucking. She's like, she has her whole thing, and then she's also has to like deal with this
All right.
crazy store. I was like, if you need help with anything,
That's okay. So
like-
you're saying it's false info. Fake
yeah,
news.
I don't want to fucking. I'm not traveling an hour to go do a shift at a baseball.
I thought
card
the way
store.
I interpret it is you just love cards that much,
No,
and it's kind of like the
fuck.
kid that gets to work at GameStop when he's young. Like you might get deals on the cards.
No, because I was.
You must get
I was
discounts
telling
on
her
the
because she
cards.
was saying she's like, there's so many people who are
I
trying
thought
to
it was a scheme. You're
trying to
up
fuck her over because she doesn't know stuff, and I'm like, well, I know stuff about this, so I'm like, if you need help, like I'll help you. I'm not trying to do this as a regular thing.
All right.
This was like my friend is like in a jam, and I was like, being-
That's not what I heard. You're the one in a jam that you need a job at a baseball card store.
oh, that's so funny. Oh fuck.
Okay. All right. This has been the Boys Cast. Peace.
Peace.